It certainly was not pretty, but it was a sweep for the Orioles, and that's what they needed to get back to 500. We break down the final win of the White Sox series coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast.
You are Locked On Orioles, your daily Baltimore Orioles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Orioles fans. Today is Thursday, April 9th, 2026, and welcome back into the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, Connor Newcomb, and this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Just head to FanDuel.com to get started. And coming up on today's episode, we will recap another Orioles win, beating the White Sox on Wednesday afternoon to complete the sweep on the South Side. We'll talk about a weird start for Kyle Bradish, a big day for Taylor Ward, and the sneaky state of the pretty good Orioles bullpen right now. Then we'll talk about the bad news we got on Wednesday, although something we were expecting. Zach Eflin is done for the year. He got elbow surgery, what that means for the Orioles rotation in the short and long term, and then we'll get you ready for Orioles and Giants this weekend. But let's begin with another Orioles win. That's 3 in a row. That's a sweep, and that is a winning streak. Final score from the south side of Chicago on Wednesday afternoon. It's the Orioles 5 and the White Sox 3 as the O's complete the 3-game sweep over the White Sox to get back to 500. Orioles now 6-6 through 12 games this season. And I'm going to get you the 5 things you need to know from this Oriole win. And the first thing you need to know is this Taylor Ward trade, which at this point we are not calling the Grayson Rodriguez trade, we are calling the Taylor Ward trade, is looking better and better each day. How about a 4-for-5 afternoon from Taylor Ward with 3 doubles and 2 RBIs? His second career 3-double game. He also did it June 29th of last year against the Nats when he was with the Angels. Had an RBI double in the second, got the Orioles on the board, and then a huge insurance run with an RBI double in the top of the ninth to put the Orioles up 5-3. And already for Ward, 12 games in, his second 4-hit game of the season. Taylor Ward did not have a single 4-hit game in his big league career before coming to Baltimore this winter, and now he's got 2 of them in 12 games. Didn't hit leadoff for the first time. It was 11 games in the leadoff spot for Ward. He hit second behind Gunnar Henderson on Wednesday, but he now has 9 doubles on the season, which leads the big league so far. He had a career-high 31 doubles last year. He's very much on pace to smash that record, still without a home run, but it really hasn't mattered because he's got 9 doubles, and he is rocking a 383 average and a 1038 OPS, and that's without going yard. This is a guy who, remember, hit 36 home runs last season. And Taylor Ward is the first player in Orioles history to pick up 9 doubles in his first 12 games of a season. He's the first big league player at all to do it since Bo Bichette and David Peralta both did that feat at the beginning of the 2019 season. But 2019 had the juiced balls, so you got to go back really to Mitch Moreland in 2017 for the last guy to truly do this in his first 12 games. And what's even more impressive is Taylor Ward did not have a double in his first 4 games of the year. So this is 9 doubles in 8 games. He is also the first Oriole to ever have 9 doubles in any 8-game stretch at any point in a season. 4 players have had 8 doubles in 8 games with the O's. Most recently, Nick Markakis did it back in 2012. So a pretty historic start for Taylor Ward. He's been the perfect fit for this O's offense to this point. Yes, there's been some shaky defense in left field. We're not going to hide from that. But meanwhile, Grayson Rodriguez on the injured list with the Angels currently as expected. Second thing you need to know from Wednesday is that Dylan Beavers kind of returned to the player we saw late last season when he first came up to the big leagues. Remember, Beavers debuted in mid-August and was mostly an everyday player for the O's for the remainder of the season. Played in 35 games and had 26 walks last year. That tied an Orioles record for most walks in your first 35 games in the big leagues. He was a walk machine. And yet through the first 8 games he had played in this year, coming into play on Wednesday, he had not yet drawn a single walk. Guys were throwing him more strikes, and he just wasn't able to get on base that way. Now, he was still hitting, but the walks weren't coming. And he changed that, though, on Wednesday. 2 walks for Beavers in Wednesday's game for his first 2 of the season. Also had what ended up being the game-winning swing, sac fly in the 6th to put the Orioles up 4-3. At the time, it was a lefty-lefty sac fly off of Brian Hudson. Pretty impressive from Beavers. But good to see the walks, right? A Dylan Beaver who is walking is dangerous. He still had a 727 OPS on the year without those walks. So if he can get on base as well, like he did late last year, it's going to cover up for some of the things that he lacks defensively. But even with that awful performance in left field in the 9th inning of Saturday's loss in Pittsburgh, Beavers got his second start of the season in center field on Wednesday. And there wasn't really a chance for him to make a whole lot of plays, but he didn't embarrass himself. He was totally fine out there and was replaced by Leody Taveras defensively late in the game. And that's kind of all you can ask for from him if you do start him in center. It maybe says more about the current state of Colton Cowser than against another right-hander, righty Sean Burke. Terp was on the mound for the White Sox Wednesday, and you still started Beavers in center with Ward in left and O'Neill in right. Not exactly the greatest defensive outfield you can put out there. Theo's got lucky that it didn't really hurt them, but maybe that's more of a Cowser thing than a Beavers thing, but you like the performance from Beavers on Wednesday. Third thing you need to know from that game is that Kyle Bradish definitely had an adventurous start. Something still seems a little bit off with him 3 starts into this season. And we got to remember, he's still only 9 starts removed from Tommy John surgery. Had 6 really good ones late last year in September when he came back. 3 once so far this year. Sinker command was better. Sinker command was really bad in his first 2 starts. It definitely got better on Wednesday. Got a few looking strikeouts, some front door sinkers to lefties. That's a pitch that kind of starts inside and then darts to the inside corner against a left-handed hitter. He really hadn't done that in his first 2 starts, but he did throw his 4-seam fastball more than usual. Still threw more sinkers than anything else. But the 4-seam fastball has kind of been put on the back burner the past couple of years since he added the sinker because it doesn't have a very good movement profile. But I just figured because the sinker command was so bad in his first 2 starts, you need fastball command. So we might just change up the fastball a little bit. And it's not like he threw it a ton on Wednesday, but he did go out there and throw 21% 4-seamers. That's a lot bigger chunk than we've seen in a long time. His command was solid with that pitch. It was better than with the sinker, so that's maybe something to watch, but he really needs the sinker command and honestly the sinker movement to get back to where it was even late last year. And it was a weird start because he still struck out 7, right? Final line for Bradish on Wednesday, 5 innings, 3 runs, 2 earned on 6 hits, 7 Ks and 3 walks on 96 pitches for the Oriole right-hander. And 7 Ks in 5 innings, you generally think, hey, Bradish had the slider working, got a ton of swing and miss, and got 7 Ks. Not really the case. He didn't really miss bats. Only 4 total whiffs on 37 swings by White Sox hitters against Bradish on Wednesday. Pretty impressive to get 7 strikeouts with only 4 whiffs. That means a ton of called strikes, which is what he did get, especially with those fastballs. The 10.8% whiff rate he had, 4 out of 37, is the lowest whiff rate of any career big league start for Bradish since the Orioles first called him up back in 2022. So I would say a positive step in the right direction that he gave him 5 innings of 2 earned runs, but just a weird outing. And the thing that made it the weirdest is the 4th thing you need to know is that there was one moment in this start for Bradish right at the end of his start in the 5th inning where, I don't know how this even happened. So it's a 2-2 game. You got 2 outs in the 5th. White Sox have runners on first and second. Colson Montgomery is up. Bradish walks Montgomery on a 3-2 pitch, tried to do that front door sinker again, but it didn't move enough. It stayed inside, taken for ball 4. So that would load the bases with 2 outs in a tie game in the 5th. So it'd be a pretty big spot for Bradish. And it's his 3rd walk of the game. He's pissed off that he couldn't get that ball back to the inside corner. So Adley Rutschman gets up to, throw the ball back to the pitcher like you do after pretty much every pitch. And Kyle Bradish you can tell he's pretty upset as he comes down the mound to get the ball. And as Adley throws him the ball back, Bradish just kind of snaps at it like he's annoyed, doesn't really look at the ball, just thinks he's easily going to catch it in his glove. But instead, because he wasn't looking, it hits off his glove and the ball trickles away. Now, you'll see this happen a couple times in a big league season, maybe miscommunication between the catcher and pitcher on the throwback. And generally it doesn't lead to anything bad because the pitcher can hop on it and the guys on the bases aren't paying, 110% attention where they can take an extra base. but it was kind of the perfect confluence of things because it was a 3-2 pitch with 2 outs. The runners at first and second were on the move with the pitch. So Chase Mydroth, the runner at second, was basically all the way at third base by the time the ball got to Kyle Bradish. So Mydroth, who was rightfully paying attention and locked in, sees the ball deflect off Bradish's glove, kind of trickle away from him. So he gets a big lead off third. Then the kicker was Bradish doesn't jump on the ball. Instead, he kind of leisurely walks over to it, still very clearly upset with himself. And that's when Mydroth takes off. Bradish tries to throw home. It wouldn't have been an out anyway if it was a good throw, but it was a terrible throw that goes to the backstop. And the White Sox score a run to take a 3-2 lead in a huge spot in the game. A mistake that you only see really honestly happen in like Little League. It was an embarrassing moment for Kyle Bradish and the Orioles right there. And it felt like even after a struggle of these last 2 games, they found a way to win the 2 games. It was a terrible series getting swept in Pittsburgh. They haven't really played great Monday or Tuesday, but they won the 2 games and they're going for a sweep. And it's like, this is how they're going to miss out on the sweep. They're going to lose this game like this. It's been a weird season, and it was a weird season last year, but did they have any moments more embarrassing than giving up a go-ahead run on that? It just can't happen. And kudos to Kyle Bradish for he had immediately had a conversation with Craig Albernaz when he came into the dugout after getting the next out and finishing the inning to keep it 3-2. And then he talked about it with the media after the game, immediately owned up to it. He said, quote, "That's just childish behavior and it won't happen again." That was Bradish's quote about the moment. And you love to see him own up to a bad mistake. And I like that. But this is something we saw from the Orioles last year and saw already this year, where things start going wrong for some of these younger players. And Bradish isn't that young. He's into his late 20s. But they start to spiral a little bit. And hopefully the vets the O's have added to this clubhouse can help put an end to that kind of stuff. But you're a professional playing a game. Like, emotion is great. Emotions are going to run high. You're going to get frustrated and disappointed and pissed off with yourself when you aren't performing to the level that you know you can. And that's what's happened for Kyle Bradish through 3 starts this season. And I'm sure he's fighting things, getting his body and his arm and his elbow right still, not too long since coming back from Tommy John surgery. But that emotion has got to be well placed. And when it goes too far in the negative direction, it can be negative sometimes. That's just human nature. You start to hurt your team. You lapse in confidence. And that's just a play where you made a mental and a physical error. Then you compounded it and you gave up a run. And luckily your offense picked you up. Your bullpen picked you up. You came back and won the game. But if the O's lose 3-2 and it's because of that play, we're having an even bigger conversation than we are right now. So hopefully, I don't know if it's a learning moment. Maybe it is. It's just, it can't happen. You're Major League Baseball players. That goofy stuff is what teams like the White Sox who are rebuilding should be doing, not the Orioles. And it was a tough look. But the 5th and final thing you need to know from the Orioles 5-3 win over the White Sox on Wednesday is that the bullpen and the offense, with the 2 runs immediately in the 6th to take the lead, but the bullpen especially picked up Kyle Bradish because the O's went to that pen in the 6th with a 4-3 lead, and they locked it down. Tyler Wells, Grant Wolfram, Anthony Nunez, and Rico Garcia, each with a scoreless inning, combining for 4 scoreless to close out this 5-3 win. Oriole bullpen in this series, in this 3-game sweep, was incredible. They pitched 11 innings, allowing just 1 run on 3 hits over the 3 games with 15 strikeouts versus 7 walks. That included, they didn't allow a single hit on Tuesday. The bullpen allowed only 1 hit on Wednesday. And I think it was an infield single, the 1 hit that was given up by Wolfram, I believe. They were good. And they're probably walking a few too many guys, right? There was certainly traffic on the bases in, I believe, all 4 innings, and a couple of innings had multiple runners on, but they bear down. They're missing bats. They're showing good stuff. We've now seen Anthony Nunez get a hold in the 8th inning in back-to-back games. That's been awesome. With Ryan Helsley having saved Monday and Tuesday's game, and he pitched Saturday, so that's 2 in a row and 3 out of 4. He's almost certainly was going to be unavailable on Wednesday, and it was a save chance, and the O's go to Rico Garcia, who's been really, really good this year. He walked 2, but got 5 whiffs on 7 swings, 3 on the changeup, gets his first save of the year, has still not allowed a hit. Rico Garcia has not allowed a hit so far this season. I know it's only April 8th, but that's still pretty impressive. And the Orioles quietly, 10th in FWAR from their bullpen, 8th in strikeout percentage from their bullpen. It maybe felt like the island of misfit toys at times, but this is turning into, and again, we're only 12 games into a 162-game season, but this is turning into looking like a pretty solid group so far. I think Mike Elias has done a nice job putting this group together. There's some high upside arms in that pen, and guys are stepping up. And if you're looking around, like, who you trusting in the bullpen right now? Helsley, Garcia, Nunez, Wolfram, and Cano have all looked good in big spots. Tyler Wells had an iffy run there, but he's been better as of late. I mean, you got some guys that you can go to right now, and that's put them and the O's in a good spot, helping lead them to a sweep, their first of the season. But it wasn't all good news for the Orioles on Wednesday, unfortunately, because we got some news that, while I was expecting, always hurts when it's official. Zach Eflin, elbow surgery, done for the year. We'll discuss the fallout next. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here, where every possession matters, every matchup is magnified, and every game can swing a series. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a great way to get in on the action. You can bet just $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. And the FanDuel app, makes it easy to follow the action with player stats, trends, and matchups all in one place. And during the playoffs, that extra insight really matters when you're looking at role players, key moments, stars, whatever it may be. So pick your favorite team. Is it going to be the Thunder to repeat, or maybe somebody else you get a future on that's going to win the championship this year? But either way, you can head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel. Play your game. And this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is also brought to you by Indeed. You got workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, and the inbox overflowing. And the one position you got to fill, it's still sitting open. So when the pressure's on and you need the right hire, that's a job for Indeed sponsored jobs, which helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show, you can get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. So the Orioles win the game over the White Sox on Wednesday. They get the sweep, but unfortunately, they lose Zach Eflin. We get the official news from the O's on Wednesday. Zack Eflin has undergone UCL reconstruction surgery on his right elbow, and he will be out for the remainder of the 2026 season. Now, the timeline for Eflin was this. He had a great finish with the Orioles in 2024 after coming over from the deadline. Opening day starter in 2025, looks good for 3 starts, then goes down with an injury. Has some lat issues, some back issues popping up again. Bounces on and off the IL last year, has some bad numbers, is clearly injured, and finally in August of last year, undergoes season-ending back surgery, which was fixing something that apparently had been bothering Eflin for multiple years. He comes back this spring, looking healthy, looking like a different kind of pitcher. Has probably the most impressive spring training of any Orioles starter this year. And while we thought, hey, he's still rehabbing, the O's have 6 starters, he'll probably just begin the year on the injured list, make a couple more rehab starts in AAA, and then be ready. He just looked so good and so healthy in spring training that the Orioles gave him the number 5 starter spot and, pretty surprisingly, optioned Dean Kramer down to AAA to begin the year. And Eflin makes his first start of the year last Tuesday in game number 5 against the Rangers, pitching along pretty well until the 4th inning, when the trainers come out and he leaves the game with elbow discomfort. The O's pretty immediately put him on the 15-day injured list, started getting some testing. Then it was reported he would go for a second opinion, which is never good because you don't get a second opinion if the first opinion from a doctor is one that you like. The O's transfer him to the 60-day injured list to make room on the 40-man for another player, but also tells you he's at least out for 2 months. And it became pretty clear it's going to be elbow surgery. Every sign was pointing that way, and that is what he's getting. Now, I don't believe as of Wednesday night here, we're officially sure what kind of UCL surgery there is. The most common one is, of course, Tommy John surgery, kind of a 12 to 18-month recovery timeline. He could also be getting the kind of lesser internal brace surgery, which still repairs the UCL, the ligament in your elbow, but it's a little less invasive, and the timeline is more like a 10 to 14 month-ish rather than a 12 to 18, so guys can come back a little bit faster from the internal brace. But either way, Eflin is going to be out for the remainder of the season. It stinks for Zach Eflin, right? He looked great in spring, coming back from the surgery. You can tell how much he means to this team, this clubhouse. He wanted to pitch well again for Orioles fans, and it just stinks. He gets the back figured out, and for the first time in his career, he has elbow issues, and it's immediately Tommy John. Like, he's had injury issues throughout his career with the Phillies, with the Rays, with the Orioles, but never really the elbow until now. And, he signed a 1-year, $10 million deal to come back with the O's. There's a $25 million mutual option for 2027. That means both Eflin and the team would have to agree to that number for him to come back. Obviously, the O's are going to decline a $25 million option for Eflin next year, but I could absolutely see them bringing him back on some sort of cheap deal as he continues to rehab, right? Like, he's going to be out for this season, but depending on which surgery it is, whether it's the full Tommy John or the internal brace, and because of the timing, he gets it in early April, he could be back to pitch for a good chunk of the 2027 season. Like, I feel pretty confident Zach Eflin will at least pitch a little bit at some point in 2027, even if it is late in the year. Remember, Kyle Bradish came back and pitched for a bad team late in the year with the season over last year, and he got full TJ in June of 2024. So even if Eflin gets full TJ in April, unless he has bad setbacks, he's going to pitch at some point in the big leagues next year. The question is for who and how effective would he be? I think the O's would be very willing to bring him back on another cheaper, $5 to $8 million 1-year deal with a team option for 2028 in the offseason. They know Eflin. They like Eflin. He's valued in that clubhouse. The young guys love him. He clearly loves pitching for the Orioles, and nobody's going to know better about the progress of Eflin's rehab once we, get to October and November and free agency opens. No one's going to know it better than the Orioles. So they're going to have a better look at how he's doing and how early in 2027 he'll be ready to pitch. Now, nobody's going to expect him to be ready for opening day next year, but him being back in May or June is absolutely a possibility. And if you can get 4 months of a healthy, hopefully solid starting pitcher for a pretty cheap price, that's still helpful. So I wouldn't be surprised if they potentially brought him back. Now, the big question, though, of course, is what do the Orioles do now that they're officially without him? Now, the long-term plan, very obviously, should be Dean Kremer takes his rotation spot. That's what everybody thinks and believes and knows is going to happen. But there's still weird stuff going on with Dean Kremer at this point. Clearly, something's happening there because he is still not in the big leagues as of this moment. He was eligible actually to be called up today, but the Orioles announced on Wednesday that actually Cade Povich is going to start on Sunday against the Giants. Remember, he pitched in long relief last Sunday. This will be his first start of the season. That would have been the next spot for Eflin in the Orioles rotation. Now, Dean Kremer began the year in AAA. He started on Friday, threw just 62 pitches before coming out of the game. Didn't look like an injury, but he threw more than 62 pitches in spring training outings. So maybe he was building back up from something, like probably not any kind of major injury because they allowed him to throw 62 pitches in a AAA game. But maybe something was bothering him late in spring where they shut him down for a bit and built him back up. It may not have even happened by the time he was optioned. It may have happened after. But because if it wasn't, at the very least, he would have been here already to take Eflin's second start that was open. Instead, it's going to be Povich. And Kremer did start again Wednesday night for the Tides in AAA, 4 2/3 scoreless, 5 hits, 6 Ks, no walks. He was up to 78 pitches in that start, so nice to see him building back up. But his velocity sat under 92. He's usually pretty consistently 93. So again, maybe something else going on there for Kremer that he's still trying to get fully up to speed on. Because of that, at only 78 pitches, they might want Kremer to make one more start in AAA Norfolk before he's ready. That would be scheduled for next Tuesday, which would make him not ready to come back to the big leagues until Sunday, April 19th at the absolute earliest. So not only will Cade Povich pitch on Sunday, he might even get one more turn in the rotation. We'll see if the changes he made are real. He looked pretty good against the Pirates in long relief on Sunday, but it's going to be Povich for now. You got to think at some point in April, as long as he's okay, and we still haven't really gotten word on that it's going to be Dean Kremer. But then I think this makes it even more likely. The O's are probably already going to be looking to, upgrade the starting rotation at the deadline if they're in it. I don't think they're going to go out and sign a Luke Giolito or something right now, but probably even more likely that if the O's are in it in July, they make a starting pitching addition. But again, I still feel solid about the rotation of Rogers, Bradish, Boz, Bassett, and Kremer whenever that happens, with Cade Povich being your depth guy. But You get 3 2/3, I think it was, innings out of Zach Eflin, and then his season is over. Not exactly what the O's wanted, but that's how you can get around it. When you have 6 starters to begin the year, someone's always going to get injured. You hoped it wouldn't be this early, but here we are, and the O's, I think, are prepared for it as long as Dean Kramer is all good. But the O's do have the off day here on Thursday, and then the Giants come in this weekend. We'll preview that series to finish the show after this.
Hey, this is Jeff Carr from Locked On Reds, and when it comes to our futures, we all have great ideas when it comes to our job, when it comes to our house, when it comes to our vehicles, all that great stuff. But honestly, when it comes to securing that future, I don't know what I don't know. And when me and my wife sat down to figure out the life insurance thing, Ethos made everything simple. Everything's online, you have a quick and easy application process, and you find out exactly what you need for coverage all in one spot. Ethos makes everything so convenient when it comes to learning about your own life insurance, because insurance is something that is far beyond batting average or on-base percentage. It's way out in left field for me. Ethos made it all easy. Take just 10 minutes and get covered today with life insurance through Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/lockedonmlb. That's ethos.com/lockedonmlb. Application times may vary and rates may vary.
All right, so for the Orioles, they've got another series coming up this weekend. Hopefully they can keep this winning streak going as they take on the San Francisco Giants, who come to Baltimore for a 3-game set this weekend. The Giants 5-8 on the year. They weren't playing good baseball. They did just take 2 out of 3 at home against the Phillies with back-to-back shutouts. So Giants looking a little bit better. It'll be Friday night at 7:15. That's an Apple TV Plus game coming up on Friday night. Landon Roop, the right-hander, gets the ball for the Giants against Shane Baz of the Orioles. Roop, he's been awesome through 2 starts, ton of strikeouts, a lot of soft contact, kind of a weird sidearm arm angle from the righty. He's got this funky changeup that's unhittable. Literally, he still is yet to allow a hit on his changeup, and it's his second most used pitch behind his sinker. That's going to be a tough matchup for the Orioles. Then they go on Saturday this weekend, also a 7:15 p.m. start. That game is on Fox, so back-to-back national games for the O's. Logan Webb, the Giants ace, will get the ball. Webb hasn't been as good as we're used to. His ERA is at 5. His velo's been down a tick to around 91. He's still getting ground balls. He's, just getting kind of unlucky. And he goes up against Chris Bassett, who has been really, really bad through 2 starts, and it would be nice to see him bounce back on Saturday. Then on Sunday at 1:35, this game is back on Masson. The right-hander Adrian Hauser, who signed as a free agent with the Giants this offseason, will get the ball. You'll see mostly a sinker at 95 and a changeup with a slider. He's hunting ground balls. He doesn't really miss bats or get a ton of strikeouts. The O's should be able to feast on him. And as I mentioned, Cade Povich will make his first start of the season for the Orioles on Sunday. Giants managed by Tony Vitello, who they hired right out of college baseball, took Tennessee to brand new heights in baseball, gets the job. We'll see. Their offense has been really bad so far. Matt Chapman and Casey Schmidt, really the only 2 guys who are hitting at all this season. Willie Adames has been okay. Rookie catcher Daniel Susac has looked good, but it's only been 4 games since he got called up. But Luis Arraez, Rafael Devers, Jung-Hoo Lee, and Elliot Ramos, 4 guys who they expected to be probably 4 of their 5 best hitters, have all been just downright awful so far this season. And that's why the Giants offense has been awful. 28th in team WRC plus entering Wednesday, 29th in on base percentage and walk percentage. They're just not getting on base. Also, 29th in hard hit rate and dead last in barrel rate. So it's not like they're getting unlucky and are due to break out of it. Their offenses just look straight up bad, at least through the first 12 games of this season. Hopefully they don't turn things around in Baltimore this weekend, but we will see. As for the Giants bullpen, their closer's been Ryan Walker because they traded away Camilo Doval last year. He's got interesting stuff, but he's walking a ton of guys. Their setup guy, the hard-throwing left-hander Eric Miller, he's got incredible stuff. He's also walking a ton of guys, so that has led to their bullpen kind of being a little shaky because they can't really trust the guys at the back end. And speaking of bullpens, we might see Andrew Kittredge make his way back to the Orioles this season on the 15-day injured list. He is eligible to be activated on Friday. He pitched in a 3rd rehab game Wednesday night for Norfolk, finally got the sinker back up to sitting 95 miles an hour for the first time. That's where he usually sits. I would probably think the O's might want him to get one more rehab outing this weekend, and then maybe we see him early next week. But totally possible to see Kittredge probably replace either Albert Suarez or someone like Nick Riquet to just get another veteran kind of high leverage arm in this bullpen, which, as I mentioned, is already performing pretty well so far in this young season. Now, I still will have an episode coming up tomorrow, but I did preview the weekend series on a Thursday show because crazy week of work meant that I had to record Friday's episode actually on Tuesday night. So you're still going to get an episode tomorrow. It is going to be a look at 3 players who have been interesting statistically on the hitting side so far this season for the Orioles. We'll break down why Adley Rutschman has been so good, and is he back? We'll talk about why Taylor Ward has just been amazing, but in a different way. And then we'll break down some of the struggles of Colton Cowser and his issues with changeups and splitters so far this year. But that is coming up on tomorrow's episode. Again, it was recorded Tuesday, so if there's any crazy Orioles news on Thursday, you'll have to wait until Monday to get it, when you'll also get a recap of this weekend series, all 3 games between the O's and the Giants, of which I'll be at Sunday's game. So if you see me there, come along and say hi. If you're liking Locked On Orioles, check out the Everydayer Club, where you can get ad-free episodes of the show. You can get members-only Discord access to chat about the O's and much more. It's $5 per month usually, but if you use the code FINALLY right now, that's code FINALLY, you can get 1 free month of the Locked On Orioles Everydayer Club to check it out. Other ways to support the show, just like, comment, and subscribe here to the Locked On Orioles YouTube page. Maybe if you subscribe to the show, follow the show, leave a 5-star rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That really helps as well. And if you have feedback, I always love to hear feedback about the show or about the O's. You want to talk some ball, you can email me, lockedonorioles@gmail.com. And then that'll do it for today. Back on Monday to recap the O's and Giants series. But first, I still am back on Friday with a pre-recorded episode looking at Adley, Taylor Ward, and Colton Cowser and their offensive approaches and underlying stats so far this season. Kind of a data nerd deep dive coming up on tomorrow's episode if you like that kind of thing. But until then, I'm Connor Newcomb, and this has been the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.